going to bring the whole fucking diseased, corrupt temple down on your head. It's going to be biblical.
Hello again, welcome to Patriots Across the Pond, a little bit of Thursday Thunder with Stu and Elisa. This is episode 33, maybe a little sign there. Today we've got an amazing guest, David Sorensen. We're going to call this episode The Liberation of Humanity, and I just want to read out a little bit of an introduction to David. David Sorensen is the founder of the website stopwellcontrol.com and Hope for Humanity Ministries. David holds a master's degree in media and communication from the University of Science and Arts in Ghent, Belgium, and works as a missionary journalist reporting critical truths that are censored by the mainstream media. He has authored 8 books and built several websites with a large worldwide audience. During his media training at the University for Science and Arts, David learned firsthand how corrupt mainstream media is and how they use psychological techniques to manipulate the public. He learned how colours, shapes, words, rhythm, repetition, music, light, and combinations of all of these are used to influence the behaviour and actions of people. David has worked with many publishing companies, magazines, newspapers and television companies, and has witnessed firsthand how they focus on influencing and controlling the population instead of honestly informing them. David, welcome to the show.
Welcome, David.
Thank you very much, Stu and Elisa.
How are you?
Have you?
I'm good. I have 2 huge cold sores on my lip from the sunburn. We are in California and the sun hit us hard. So my lip looks a little bit weird.
Oh.
But for the rest, I'm okay.
Well, we're all having mad weather at the moment. In England, we've had one of the longest winters we've ever had. Then we had 2 beautiful weeks of summer. Then it went to winter again for 2 weeks. We've just gone into summer again, and it's absolutely chucking it down outside, raining at the moment.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah. And I'm based in New York on Long Island. So we've been having like very Florida-like weather. You know, it'll be very hot and then we'll get like, you know, just rain, like a thunderstorm. And then it's, you know, it passes. But I don't know. The weather's kind of strange all over, right?
Yep. They are doing funny stuff with the weather.
Yeah. By the way, somebody just put in the chat vinegar. So I'm sure they're referring to maybe healing your lip.
Yeah. Ah, okay. Let me check it out.
Yeah. If anybody has any other suggestions, put it in the chat. And if
apple cider vinegar.
Somebody says here, David Sorensen. That's funny.
We have a great audience.
That's hilarious.
That
Brilliant.
Is so funny.
Well done, Wendy. I just want to say one thing quickly as well. One of our viewers watching today and who has been on our show in a little round table is coming on with us again in July. Brian Monkey. It's his born day today, so merry born day, sir. Hope you're having a great day.
Yes Have a great one. So David, tell us a little bit you know, about your journey, how you, I know like just from watching your videos, you know, have a sense of how you get a lot of messages, but tell us a little bit about your awakening journey just in general throughout your life and how you got to this point.
Yeah, throughout life. That's wow. I'll try to be concise, but Yeah, so basically my awakening started when I came to Christ, after years of running away from God, wanting to have nothing to do with religion, because I saw how fake it all was. And then, I just hit rock bottom. And I had supernatural encounters with God. Very supernatural. I was totally transformed. And then I started understanding that, one thing that suddenly became clear to me is that there is this psyop in society, extremely aggressive in the Western world, to push everybody away from the Creator. And I saw how I had been brainwashed and how everybody was being brainwashed by the theory of evolution. And so I started doing a deep dive into that, and I found that there is no scientific evidence for that whatsoever. On the contrary, it contradicts every basic scientific principle. And that was my first wake-up call, to see that our society is mind-controlled, that science is a complete fraud, that people who claim to present facts and truth, they actually deny them, ignore them, push them aside to force one narrative on people. And one time I sent a news article to the editor-in-chief of the largest newspaper in my area. And the news article was about, well, it was actually a press release. The press release was about a group of 500 leading scientists of natural sciences who came forward and stated that Darwinian evolution is not as proven as everybody thinks, and that it has several main fundamental challenges. And I thought that was worthy to be published in the newspaper. The editor-in-chief personally reached out to me and said, "Don't ever send anything like that to me again." So right there, I saw these guys are not interested in real science or truth, so that launched me on the journey. I wrote the first book about that. Actually, it was a thesis for the University of Science and Arts, where I graduated, and I explained, how the theory of evolution contradicts real science, and it's literally the exact same as with vaccines. That they present this story to the public. This is science. This is proven. You put your trust in us, and it's not. It's a lie, and everything that exposes it as a lie is being censored. So yeah, that was my first wake-up call, where I realized, and it was scary. I remember that it was very, very scary to suddenly find that the whole foundation of our society, which is science and the authorities, the education, you have to be able to trust them. And I realized they're lying to us deliberately.
Can I just ask you how long ago that was?
I was just going to ask the same question.
Yeah, that was a long time ago. I was 18 years old, and I'm 53 now. So that's that's like 35 years ago. And I was all alone. I had nobody to talk to about this. I remember very clearly, I was riding my bicycle as a young student in the city of Bruges in Belgium, a beautiful, a medieval city. And my whole world was falling apart. And the only one I had to hold on to was God. He was the only safety, security, strength that I had, and he was kind of reshaping my whole worldview. And so, yeah, that's where it started. And then after that, I went to the Royal Academy for Visual Arts. They selected me to represent them before the King of Belgium because of the talent that I had. And then I went to the University for Science and Arts. I got a master's there, and it's in that university that I started learning about how the public is being manipulated, even with commercials, sounds, rhythm, color that they choose, wording, how it's the whole goal is to convince people to believe what you want them to believe. You know, in the commercial world, it is so that they would give them their money, so that they would buy your stuff. But I also started seeing that, you know, when I was in the libraries doing research, it struck me that books that were about the creator, for example, were completely non-existent in every library, while books about atheism are in abundance. So this showed me the knowledge in our societies is being curated. People are being fed a certain, you know, a certain narrative that everybody has to submit to. And if you don't, then you become an outsider. If you start thinking for yourself, then you become a threat to the system. And yeah. And then, of course, with COVID, you know, I wrote several books about truth, but when COVID hit, that was, for most of us, I think, the big awakening, where we suddenly realized, oh my God, this is 1,000 times worse than I ever thought.
Yeah. Well, you know, just a few things from what you were just saying. You know, 18 is such a pivotal age. I don't know. Do you have children?
I have 4 children now. Yeah.
Right. So you can relate as a parent, like when you're 18, you think you're 18, but you're a kid. And to have that, your whole world sort of, you know, your belief system kind of get shaken like that. That's a very, very scary. I mean, it's scary at any age, but at that age, you're just starting to figure out your future. And then the other thing I wanted to ask you, so this journey all started in Europe where you were going to school. How did you end up in the United States? And are you just living here, or are you a citizen?
We are not citizens yet. We do have a permanent visa.
Okay.
So ultimately we will become citizens. And how did that happen? Yeah, you know, that's kind of a miracle story. I had a dream, and in that dream, I was moving my family to America. And I woke up from the dream, and it was a very supernatural experience. And we knew that it was impossible for us to get to America. So, but then we came into a Christian meeting with with a prophetic minister, and he started praying for us. And I mean, God just spoke through him, and he didn't know anything. And he said, "You are going to America." And I just had that dream. And, you know, people will try to keep the door shut, but I am the Lord your God. And when I open a door, no man can shut it. So that was very powerful. And then indeed, our first application for a visa was rejected. But as the word said, we stood firm. And all of a sudden, a miracle happens. And we got permanent visas for the whole family. We were welcomed to America. And on the base of a very rare visa that is hardly ever granted, called extraordinary ability. This is basically for a Nobel Prize winners, you know, for world changers. And they gave that to me based on the work I had been doing. So that was pretty incredible.
Wow, congratulations. So I'm always interested as an American, right? I'm a native New Yorker. I've lived here my whole life. And my grandparents immigrated to the States, right? And of course they were very poor, and, you know, they came over on the ships, and it was, you know, a whole thing. But I always get very inspired to hear people today in this day and age, to hear why you wanted to come to this country.
Yeah, you know why? Actually, it was first it was kind of a dream of my wife to have more space, more freedom, you know, to live in nature, not surrounded by big cities. And so that was kind of also the desire that started growing in my heart, you know, after that dream and after all the signs came in. I mean, like, why would I want to go to America? And so it became clear that you know, we would enjoy a much larger open space. And indeed, we got a property in Colorado, like a 26-acre property.
Wow.
In the wilderness. So when people ask me how much acres we have, I always say like 5 million. because it's surrounded by public land, so we can go anywhere.
Yeah.
And that's also a miracle story again, because my wife told me, she said, David, God said to me that he has given us this property. And I'm like, whoa, that's weird, because, you know, we were missionaries, we had no money. But then all of a sudden, in 1 month time, all the money suddenly came in, and we were able to buy that property for, I mean, cash, just like that.
Yeah.
And it has 2 houses, fully furnished. It has barns, it has riding arena, everything. I mean, I could sell that property now for $1 million or $1.5 million. And, you know, it was literally given to us. So these are kind of amazing experiences where we see that, you know, we have paid a high price for serving truth, for seeking, for always standing for truth, standing for justice. And then these are moments where we feel, hey, God is rewarding us for our faithfulness, for being true, you know? Yeah.
That's
And
amazing, isn't it?
I just want to ask one more question. And when exactly did you come here? How many years ago?
Yeah, that was in 2016.
Okay, so it's right around the election time, huh?
Yeah, it was actually when Trump rose to prominence, and I never trusted politicians. I was like, Trump, no way, Jose. I mean, a billionaire becoming a politician, yeah, right, you know. And but I kept getting signals, and hey, this is a different kind of man. And one night I prayed very sincerely. I was on my knees, and I said, God, you have to show me, please. Is this Trump trustworthy or not? That night I had a dream, and in that dream I saw the statue of the Thinker by the French artist Rodin. Mm-hmm. So it's a naked, muscular man who sits, and he has his head on his fist, and he's thinking very deeply. And I saw that statue, but the head was Trump. The face was Trump. Wow. And so I saw that statue of the Thinker who represented Trump, and he was in very deep thought. And then above him, I saw everything that he was thinking. It was being visualized. And everything that he was thinking was about how to restore America and the world. And I woke up from that dream with an incredible deep sense of love for this man that I didn't even know. Yeah. So that was my first step towards opening my heart to look at, okay, who is this Trump really? And what is he really doing?
Yes. Yeah. Well, that's amazing the way you've gotten these messages. I mean, I grew up in Queens where Trump was from. And so we had a different opinion of him because he was more like like a folk hero. I don't know how else to say it. He did so many great things for the people. He fixed the rink at Central Park. Like, these were the stories we heard like around. So I love to hear stories of people who don't have that sort of personal, I don't want to say personal, I don't know him, but like more close thing. And that's amazing. Yeah. So, okay. So I'm just so interested in your history.
There was actually another dream that I had about Trump that also is very, very powerful, that happened in 2020. So after I have gotten to know him, and, you know, and at one point I was driving my car in Colorado in the mountains, and I had just started Stop World Control. And all of a sudden, in my car, I heard the song, You're in the Army Now. So, yeah, you're in the army now. And I was like, what? And I mean, God literally told me, David, you have joined the army. Wow. You are now a warrior who's fighting. And then I had a dream about Captain America. I mean, I'm from Europe. I have no clue who Captain America is. I don't know anything. All I know is the Hulk. And I was scared of him, you know, as a kid. And so I had a dream that I was Captain America. And I'm like, who the heck is Captain America? So my wife bought these comic books from the 50s, these antique comic books, and she gave them to me as a gift. And then I started reading who Captain America was, and I realized, goodness gracious, he's the guy fighting the tyrants. He's the guy standing for freedom. He's opposing the communists. And then I also learned that Captain America is everybody who fights for freedom, who stands against tyranny. Everybody who does that is Captain America. So I was like, wow. But then, after I trusted Trump and I learned about Q in 2020, the election was stolen. And, everybody freaked out, and so did I. And I was like, oh my God, all my dreams seem to fall to the ground. And I thought, I can't trust Trump if he allows this, if the White Hats are allowing this, and how can I ever trust him again? And then I had a dream that night. And in that dream, I was in the White House and Trump was there. And I walked up to President Trump, and he took me in his arms and he pressed my head against his chest. And he held his head up with his eyes closed. He didn't say a word. He just pressed my head against his chest so I could hear his heartbeat. And he didn't say anything. And he just held me there against his chest. And I woke up with the message, stay close to his heart. Your mind doesn't understand what's going on, but his heart. Just put your head against his heart. Trust his heart, hear his heart. And I knew, okay, something is going on. They have a plan. I just have to trust the heart of Donald Trump. And that's what I did. And that helped me to then stand my ground throughout all the chaos and the absurdity that was going on, until I learned that he was still commander-in-chief and it was all a big military operation.
Yeah. I think that was the same for all of us, really. We were all expecting at the inauguration the military to come in and whip off Biden's mask and all these sorts of things, and it didn't happen. We all got a bit deflated for a while, but then people started looking.
We were crazy, right? Because how many of us were telling everyone, no, it's never going to happen, and then we looked like fools.
Yeah, and people, people started looking into the moves Trump was making in the days, bringing in Christopher Miller and Ezra Cohen Watnick and what he was doing with the special forces and all this sorts of stuff. And then obviously after a little bit of research, when Trump said, you may not see me for a while, we'll be back in some shape or form. And he left on Air Force One. Biden had to fly on a private plane. Trump left with the football. We started looking at all these things. Then we started hearing about devolution, and we all started getting excited again. And, we've been on this path ever since. But it's amazing, isn't it?
It is absolutely amazing. And what I had read a prophetic word by Johnny Enlow. He's a prophetic minister in America. He's one of the few that I believe is legitimate. Most people who call themselves prophets are just frauds. But he was kind of the only one I knew at that time that I felt, hey, this guy is more authentic than the others. And he had published a post where God was saying, I have a brilliant rescue plan for humanity and for this world. And that always stuck with me, because those words, a brilliant rescue plan. And I was like, the more I looked into Q, the more I saw the brilliance of everything they do. It's like, and then I also realized, okay, the crooks, they recruit people based on, they have to be psychopaths. They have to be just evil. But Q, they recruited people based on their extreme brilliance, their giftedness. These people with incredible minds, with a good heart, with a heart for good. And I realized, God has gathered the very best, the la crème de la crème from the world into this large worldwide network of people who combine all their genius together, and then inspired by the master genius of God himself. And I believe that's what our understanding, I believe, is even still only the surface, because what's really happening behind the scenes, it's so much more genius than it's mind-blowing. And that's why so many people struggle to understand it. They think at this very, very low superficial level, and I mean, people sometimes say 5D chess. I'm like, 5D? You mean 5,000D chess,
Multi-dimensional chess, I like to call it.
Say again?
Multi-dimensional chess, I like to call it.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I mean, I actually made a meme about this where I showed President Trump standing, and you see all these dimensions around him. And we are used to think in one dimension, linear, flat. It has no depth to it. But President Trump operates in so many different dimensions, and all the people around him. So yeah, it's absolutely incredible.
Well,
really
yeah,
is.
I mean, we were told in the Q drops that it would only be 20% public, 80% covert. So, and
Yeah.
we can dig into all these things as much as we like, but especially with the news cycles and stuff like this going on in Iran and that's going on in Ukraine, Trump said, we will never give our military options and plans away to our enemy from this day forward. So anything you think you're hearing that's going on in these wars is probably not going on, and potentially was done a long time ago anyway, and we're now seeing the public rollout of it.
So one last question I have before we kind of go into more other things. How did you start in Colorado and end up in California? And, of course, we know that whether it's California or New York or some of these other states, a lot of what they're telling us in terms of how liberal they really are is a lie. But nonetheless, it was still a very, one of those states like New York. We got these two states that are pretty corrupt, and a lot of cleanup had to go there. So how'd you end up there?
Yeah, well, I'm a missionary, and you're asking me all the questions that forced me to talk about God. I'm sorry, I didn't plan to. But so that was, again, a supernatural thing. I mean, I wasn't interested in California whatsoever. But one night I had this dream again. And in that dream, I was riding my bicycle in Colorado. And all of a sudden, I was translated in the spirit to a different environment. I mean, in a thousandth of a second, I was all of a sudden, boom, in a different environment. And I looked around and I saw all these palm trees. I'm like, my God, I'm in California. How did I get here? And then in that dream, I saw that a very powerful spiritual awakening would come to California, that the Spirit of God would do something very powerful in California, and that we had to be there. That was the message of the dream. You have to be there. And then multiple confirmations came later. Like I had another dream, and 2 years later, and in that dream, I saw that I was in a conference. And when I left the conference, I had clarity about California. That was a dream. So I knew, okay, I have to go to a conference, and there I will get direction for what God wants to do in California. And we found a conference that I believed was the one I saw in the dream. We attended, and to our amazement, several speakers were from California, and they were all talking about the coming revival in California. So I was like, what? All these things happened. And then I was driving home, and I got a text message on my phone from a guy who lives in California, in San Diego. And he said, hey, Dave, why don't you come to California and start a good old-fashioned revival here? And I was like, Naya, are you kidding me? One thing after the other. So it was, and then I got in touch with Chad, a very well-known QAnon. And he lived in San Diego. And so I traveled to San Diego in Southern California to make the documentary with him, Warp Speed Stopped the FEMA Camps.
Yeah, absolutely. Brilliant.
Yeah. And so that was the first visit to California. And my kids all said that they felt as if they came home.
Really?
So they had this strong sensation of destiny. And when we left California back to our house, to our property in Colorado, they felt that they were leaving home. So, So that's how we got
spiritual. Yeah. And Stu has only been to the United States once. He just came in April. So he was only on the East Coast, specifically in New York, specifically on Long Island. But California is one of our most beautiful states. I mean, if you drive down Highway 1, whether you go north or south, it's just so beautiful. The Pacific Ocean and the redwoods and the weather there, like in San Diego. So it is a very beautiful place, aside from all what has happened politically.
Yeah, and I'm actually blown away that we are living now in San Diego, and I love nature. I also do nature photography, and I am blown away by the amount of green that is here,
Yeah.
and the diversity of the plants and the trees. It's like it's amazing. I've never seen a city so green. So I'm actually loving that.
Yeah.
Well,
You
that's
do have
beautiful.
the perfect weather in the whole country. So
Yeah. Well, I mean, California, I've heard California is such a beautiful place, but we've heard bad things about it because of Gavin Newsom and all the other things that are going on there. But we are seeing a worldwide revival happening in real time. And this is not directing people back to the church. It's directing people back to God and this Christ consciousness and goodness, good versus evil and light over dark. And it's just a beautiful thing to see. And all of these, the worst areas around the world, they're all going to be made to be beautiful once all this, truth finally cascades into the actual normosphere,
Absolutely. I believe that. I mean, I had a few dreams in which I saw the future, and it was so beautiful. I saw a school in the future, and for some reason it was in Germany. I don't know why. But I saw a school where the kids were learning the alphabet while they were swimming in a lake in a park in the city. And the teacher was shouting, A for apple. And all the kids in the water shouted back, A for apple, B for bear, B for bear. And I mean, they were being educated in a playful, fun way. And I saw that at the side of the lake, there was a cafe and grandparents were sitting there, some parents. I mean, it was open, it was accessible. It wasn't like kids are locked up in a prison of a big concrete building and parents are not allowed in there and nobody knows what's really going on and they have to sit still all day. No, it was a completely different atmosphere, a different world. And then I saw a city that was filled with fruit-bearing trees. So not just some green, but thousands of trees in the city were fruit-bearing, and this caused the city to be filled with butterflies and with birds, and it brought so much life in the city. And people were eating from the trees in the city. And then I saw that the suburbs were lined and filled with berry bushes, and people were tending to themselves. So as a result, people were interacting with each other. Children were playing outside together. All the neighbors were working together on these fruit-bearing shrubs in the neighborhoods. And what I saw was that the whole isolation mentality was gone. The whole death feel was gone. People were alive, people were vibrant, people were engaging. There was life. They were growing their own food in a very playful way, It was like the world was so much more beautiful, so much more love, so much more goodness everywhere.
Yeah. It's a silly analogy, but the thing I thought of, if you've ever seen the Disney film Frozen, it's like the whole world became frozen. And the way you're describing it, and then the frost goes away and it's lush and people are together and they're dancing and that's what it sounds like. And if we could, it's like people broke out of the spell, right? It's like the spell was taken off everyone.
Yeah. It's like, and I'm explaining that in my first English book that I've just published a couple of weeks ago. That was a book that I was specifically very strongly instructed by God to write, to be part of the great worldwide awakening. And I expose several deceptions that have shut down specifically the people in the church, by casting a dark outlook on them. The Antichrist is going to take over the world. Satan is going to rule the world, blah, blah, blah. And the book, shows what the real message of the scriptures is, that the sons of God, the children of God, have to rise up and have to cast out evil, cast out darkness, not wait for an Antichrist to rule the world, but rise up and stop all these plans and bring healing to humanity. And in that book, I show that the biblical timeline actually speaks about a time that I believe that we are in right now, which the Bible calls Satan's little season, where this force of darkness for one last time is released to deceive the nations of the world in an all-out rebellion against the Creator. And then at the height of this operation, judgment comes and they are removed from the earth, and a whole new era emerges where everything is being renewed and restored. And I believe that we are now at that time where this dark force of evil will permanently be removed, and people will suddenly breathe free again. This invisible force of depression will suddenly be gone, and people will suddenly feel like, hey, it's such a beautiful day. Hey, I feel so happy. And I mean, people will be able to do good without having to fight against this invisible force that constantly wants to stop them all the time.
Yeah, definitely. And I was just going to say, you've put out some really good, you always put out great videos. I love your little updates, but you've put out a couple of videos lately saying, I'm sorry, people, I have to say this. And you've been talking about this, how this, religion and Christians have been, they've led down a path to believe certain things. And obviously this is why you've written your new book, isn't it? The Return to Christ. Yeah, let me just get that. I'll just get that on the screen for you, because this is David's website, thereturntochrist.com. Nobody told you about the Return of Christ, but this is, if anyone wants to go and have a look at this, this is, it's amazing stuff.
Yeah, this is actually the result of a journey of 20 years, actually 25 years, where, I mean, every Christian in the world, if you go to church, you are impounded with the idea that Satan is going to take over the world, evil is on the rise, everything's going to get worse and worse, there's nothing you can do, and all you can do is wait for a rapture, where all the good people will suddenly be removed from the earth, and then Jesus will come and he will fix everything in the twinkling of an eye. So this is, it's a 3-element deception. The first, evil, it cannot be stopped. You have to allow evil. Don't try to stop evil because it's destined to rule the world. 2, you have to wait to get out of here. It makes you passive. And 3, Jesus will come and he will fix everything. So it's a depressing and disempowering doctrine. And God called me to investigate this, and I found that this had been imposed on the worldwide church in the 19th century by the Rothschilds. They funded the release of the Scofield Study Bible, which started spreading this belief amongst Christians. And it also included the idea that Jesus would return to the earth to sit in a new temple in Jerusalem, in Israel, from where he would rule the world. And I found that these, not all Jews, by no means, but a certain group of Jews, they have this agenda to submit all of mankind to their worldwide tyranny under the rule of a false Messiah. And that is why they are pushing this doctrine of the return of Christ into the churches worldwide, so that all the Christians, there are 2 billion people, a quarter of the human race is Christian, so that all of them would support this idea. And so if they would then put their world teacher, as the United Nations calls him, on the stage, that all the Christians would say, oh, Christ has returned, and they would all support that, So it is, all Christians are taught you have to wait for Jesus to return. And then as I started researching this, I found that what Jesus says about this is the exact opposite. Mm-hmm. Nowhere does he say that his people have to wait for a rapture and allow evil to take over and just sit and wait for Jesus to come and fix everything. No, he says, you guys go and establish my kingdom everywhere. You heal the sick, you cast out evil spirits, you establish justice, you bring restoration. And that is actually what the church has been doing for 18th centuries. I mean, before Christ came, the whole world was indescribably wicked. People were being sacrificed to demons publicly in every culture. Everywhere on earth, every culture, every society was completely drenched in Satanism, in demon worship, in magic, in incredible bloodthirstiness, in slavery. I mean, slaves were kept first and foremost for sexual abuse. I don't think you've ever heard that. We thought slaves were for labor. No, they were first and foremost for sexual abuse. Wealthy families had multiple slaves that they could abuse in any way they had specific slaves for their guests. If guests came, then they had those slaves to have sex with. I mean, the world was so horrendous, was so horrible. And then Christ came and he sent out his disciples in all these cultures, and they ended all of that. They ended the slavery. They ended the human sacrifice. They ended the demon worship. They started the first schools, hospitals. I mean, the word hospital comes from hospitality, because the first hospitals were free. These Christians, they cared for the sick for free. They were hospitable. That's why it was called hospital. Wow. And I mean, they taught humanity for the first time to care for the weak instead of devour them and trample them. Care for the weak, have justice and education and food for everyone. I mean, we don't know how the world was transformed for the better thanks to those who followed Christ. And they went all around the world. But then the Bible speaks about that, and I explained that in my book. It's called The Millennium. But then the force of darkness was released again in the 19th century, one final time, to again deceive all the nations, gather them in one huge uprising against Christ, against heaven, against the goodness of God. And that's what we've been seeing in the past 2 centuries. All of a sudden, a massive renaissance of evil. And all of a sudden, you have these pride parades everywhere. You have transgenderism. You have pedophilia being pushed. You have Satanism being celebrated again. All these ancient evils are suddenly rising back to the surface. And if it wouldn't be stopped, the world would become just as bad as it was before Christ. Probably even worse. But, in my book, I explain, and I have the book here. So in this book, I explain that, what the church has been told about the return of Christ is an incredible lie. And the actual truth is the opposite. That we are here to put an end to this rule of Satan. God, Christ is with us. He dwells among us. We are his temple. We are his body. We are his people. And from within us, he brings his restoration to the world. And that's what we're seeing with the Q operation of President Trump. He is bringing Christ back to society. He is constantly calling people. And I mean, he, as the American president, has put out several official statements on Christmas and Easter to all the world leaders that Christ is the Lord and Christ is the Savior and Christ is the Messiah. I mean, he is bringing God back in society. So the world is being liberated in an incredible way. And I believe that he is an example for all of us, not to wait, but to rise up and to do good in this world.
Well, I want to say something, because it's interesting that you said the 19th century, right? So that's the 1800s, because if we kind of think about it from what we're hearing, it's that Q operation is believed to have started with Lincoln, and that was right in the middle somewhat of the 1800s, and the power, I guess, or the infiltration, or how much of this evil, it's like we don't really know what's been going on behind the scenes all this time, but we're sort of at the pinnacle, right, or the head of the spear of where we are right now, to hopefully really finally eradicate it. And I think during the Kennedy years was maybe where things started to, come to a bit of a climax of this realization of putting this whole thing together to move on a more quick pace to truly infiltrate. But someday I hope we get to hear, a lot of what we don't know right now, because it's going to be the greatest story ever on what and how many people, gave up and sacrificed themselves for the cause of goodness, right? All
Yeah,
those people that
absolutely.
died and their
Yeah.
families, whatever, we don't even know.
Yeah. Yeah.
It may still be today, because we don't know. Is that really the person? Is the we don't know so much. And, these people that, like you said, they're doing this 5,000 D chess game. What have they sacrificed, and what are they giving up, to
It's
save
incredible.
humanity?
Yeah, it's incredible. I think that there are some really real warriors out there, and that is one of the things that really struck me with President Trump the first time I saw him, and I started actually looking at him. I realized this guy is not a polished politician.
Mm-hmm.
He has the look of a warrior. He was talking like a warrior. He was ready for battle. He was roaring, and he was roaring from his gut, real, raw, unpolished. That's why he got so much criticism, because he wasn't politically correct. But he was real. And I realized this guy is a fighter, and he's really here to save America. And he's going to go for it hard. That's why I never like politicians. Also, some people that Trump appoints, like, some people like Mike Thompson, they look so, they have this smile, and they always smile at everybody, and they look so nice. And I'm like, you're not a fighter. You're not a warrior.
Yeah.
We need the real warriors, and warriors you can tell by their raw look. They have something, they have some sort of suffering that you can tell. They are willing to suffer for the cause.
Yeah, well, I mean, sorry, one sec. I've been, Elisa and I have been away for a long, long time as well, over 2 decades, and I've been warning people about the New World Order and the FEMA coffins and blah, 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 all this, and, the Illuminati, etc. And it was when Trump came down the escalator and stuff and started bowling around going, you are fake news. The people like me were, hold up a minute, this is the man here. We didn't know about Q till 2017. Me, it was like early 2018. I was hearing from it from the Extreme 2 report and other things like that. But I was never on the main board. But I used to follow the aggregator sites and stuff. But yeah, what a man to come into this. And you knew Trump was the man. Everyone used to love Trump. He was on The View. He was everywhere. All around. Yeah. As soon as he came down that escalator and did that speech at the Al Smith dinner, right, roasting them all, they turned everything against him. And that is when when the mainstream media tells you should dislike someone, that's when you should start paying attention.
Exactly. And that actually happened with me, exactly what you're saying, that when I was still in the Netherlands, I knew that the media always slanders their enemies and praises their servants, their allies. And I saw that even in the Netherlands and Belgium and all around the world, in Africa and China, Trump was being slandered. And I knew, oh my God, this guy is a huge threat to them. And it blows me away that so many people think that Trump is part of their, their system, because I'm like, have you truly no brains? Can you not see how they are constantly attacking him? They're trying to destroy him. I mean, there was this worldwide move to cause humanity to hate him, to hate his guts. He's not part of them. How can you be so twisted in your mind to think something like that?
Well, it's very interesting that you say that, because Stu and I always talk about how our eyes, we get new eyes every couple of months, every year or so. Your eyes open and see things in a different way. And so you almost have to wonder if the Q operation, maybe before they even posted it, the first Q drop, had already pretty much won, for whatever that word wins mean, right? I'm sure there's a lot of cleanup, but then you have to wonder if this was another 5,000 D chess game of setting it up that way. Because like you said, if everyone's against him, we are able to go, are you crazy? Then obviously he's good. So you have to wonder how brilliant was this actually orchestrated? And is this part of the White Hat plan that they did it? Just like we feel that there may have been the same thing with the censorship of a lot of the truthers that might have been orchestrated to show, because you can't tell, you have to show the people. So I think every day, even as truthers and people who are seeking the truth, we start to see things slightly different and go, oh, wow, they really, they did this, they could have done that. And I think that's what makes this whole plan so remarkable, because there's probably, we're being psyop too, and being, seeing things anew as the days and years and months go by with all this.
Yeah, it's incredible. I mean, I can't believe that we are here alive to witness what is going on, and I'm so thankful that God showed me who Trump is and that he led me to Q, because without seeing that truth, I mean, I feel bad for the people who are afraid and who are negative about Trump, because it is very, very hard to see everything that's happening and then think, have no hope. So I'm very thankful that my eyes have been opened, and also my wife. I mean, she had several dreams about Trump and about Q, and it is such a blessing to have a peek behind the scene and just know that God is in control. Patriots are in control. Good is happening. It's wonderful.
Yeah.
Well,
I just want to go back to something that you said, David, about religion. And so I was raised Roman Catholic and Catholic school and the whole thing. And it's very funny because it's very cult-like, you go to church every Sunday, you say the same thing over and over and over. And it's just like, it just gets in you're not even thinking anymore, what do these words mean? But one of the things that struck me in more recent years, because I pulled away from religion probably around 2016 and became more spiritual and just, thought about how this is such a division much more than I had ever thought about it. And one of the things that you saying about this disempowerment, like, I was thinking about certain things in the Catholic religion, like you can't go directly to God for forgiveness or to repent. You have to go through a priest. And if you don't, you are supposed to want to partake, which is a whole other question about the body and blood of Christ, but let's not even analyze that. But in order to participate in that, you have to go to confession first, right? Otherwise you haven't gotten rid of your sins. So you can't even do that. And then just the rules, like the old rules, that completely take away any power. It's all in fear, and it's all making you feel like you are this horrendously horrible person from birth. From birth, you're born with this original sin, and you have to, at least like in the olden days, it still has the tradition, but you have to get that kid, baptized right away to take away the sin, because if they die before that, their soul will never enter heaven, right? And I could just go on and on and on about this, but then it's like, you're loved.
Well, religion and the churches were designed to take people's direct connection to God away. So you need to come to church to get your connection to God, and you need to speak to a priest or a bishop to get your connection, because we are the authority telling you what to do.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it is interesting that Jesus was betrayed and was handed over to be crucified by the religious leaders.
Right.
And that says it all. And Jesus called them, the religious leaders, sons of Satan.
Yep.
He said, you are children of the devil. I'm like, what? And so what I found, the reason I stepped away from God as a teenager was because of religion and because of bad things that happened in my youth. I was just hurting and angry. But I came back to God, not to a religion, but in a very powerful supernatural experience. I'm I had this experience where I was listening to some beautiful Christian music, not religious, but just some hippies who had found Jesus in a very real way, and they were just singing about how wonderful it is. And I heard a purity in there, a purity, like a vulnerability, childlike purity. And suddenly, I literally heard God say, David, you were like that as well as a child.
Mm.
And suddenly I realized that I had toughened myself. I had built this wall around myself. I had done martial arts and fitness to become strong and untouchable. And I would be, nobody would mess with me in this harsh world. And God said, I would like you to be as vulnerable as a child again. And it touched me so deeply that I just sank to the ground and I started weeping. And then all of a sudden this experience happened where the ceiling of my room just disappeared and I saw, eternal glory. I saw this indescribable, endless majesty. And out of that came two huge hands that picked me up and held me like a baby. My God, I just bawled my eyes out. I was crying so hard for like half an hour or 45 minutes. And I believe that is what my personal experience was of what the Bible says, being born again, that you become a child of God. And I came back at school later after the summer. This happened during the summer. And after summer, I was back at school. And my friend said, David, you changed from a devil into an angel. So, I had these incredible experiences with God and also with angels. I had an experience one morning where, so I had turned back to Jesus, not to a religion, turned back to Jesus. And all of a sudden I felt as if a wall, like a water dam, broke and this water flooded me. And I became so filled with joy and with this heavenly, sensation. And I knew that angels were around me. As a child, I've been to heaven. An angel took me to heaven. That's a different story. That was when I was 8 years old. But, I felt angels were dancing around me. So I had all these supernatural experiences with the reality of a creator who loves us, with the reality of a father who embraces us. And then I came into church and those people couldn't understand that. They and I realized that church had indeed been hijacked by the powers of darkness to become a system that obstructs us from truly encountering God.
Yeah.
Exactly as you say. And that Jesus is actually, the reason he called me to write this book is also to put an end to that. I'm just showing it here because I know that this is going to change so many people's lives. But the reason God told me to write this book is also to deconstruct this system that is keeping people away from encountering God. Because God is all about loving us, embracing us, caring for us, encouraging us, helping us, making us all that we can be. While in many ways, in the church, it's often the other way around. You feel bad, you feel sad, you feel depressed after the church meeting, and I'm like, God called me to plant a church in Belgium and to host meetings. And at that time, I had a stutter, a very bad stutter. I couldn't speak. I had been hit by a car when I was 9 years or something. And an elderly lady leaped from the sidewalk and she caught my head right before it would crush on the street. So that was incredible. But I developed a very bad stutter after that. And then all of a sudden, God put me in front of audiences to speak about how real he is. To tell people, guys, God is not a religion. He is the most powerful reality there is, but I couldn't speak. So I was actually, I found it horrifying. But then what happened is all of a sudden I felt this power come over me. And all of a sudden, this river of words came out of my mouth, and I was like, "What is going on here?" You know, and that's what the Bible speaks about. That the Spirit of God enables us to speak about who God is. And I mean, so for for me, God became so much different from most churches. And one of my missions in life is to show the people, you know, Jesus never came to establish a religion. He came to set us free from everything that binds us. God once spoke to me and he said, David, there are two powers in this world, two forces. The first force is enslavement, the force of slavery. This enslaves people financially. It enslaves them sexually. It enslaves them to emotional trauma. It enslaves them to sugar. It enslaves them in every imaginable way. People are slaves in 1,000 ways. The government, they're slaves to their television, they're slaves to fear, they're slaves to the public opinion. You know, they have to always agree with everybody. You know, and then God said, the second force in this world, that is me. And I end the slavery in every aspect. I set people financially free. I make people healthy when they learn to live healthy, eat healthy food. I heal their emotions so they become emotionally free. You know, I show them truth so they're free in their mind, and so on and so on. And God said, I make sons and Satan creates slaves. And that was for me a major understanding, that I suddenly realized God creates sons who are free, who are mature, who walk in his goodness and blessing. Satan creates slaves.
Yeah, exactly. I was just going to say that I'm pretty sure that God is speaking to everyone. I mean, we all hear God in different ways. Some people get visions, some people hear voices. I think God speaks to me in numbers. I mean, Elisa and I, we did 17s galore, 11, 11. I can't look at my phone without being 17, 3, 3, 3. All these sorts of things. But these are synchronicities that many people still just pass off as coincidences. They don't, when they see these numbers or signs, or to say a white feather maybe, or anything like that, they don't pause to think, what does this mean at this moment in time?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's one of the things that I also discovered, that God speaks to us all the time, if only we pay attention.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then especially if we start engaging with God, you know, in a very heartfelt, real way. Like, I often ask him, like, okay, what do you want to say to me? Or when there's a situation, I ask, you know, what is your wisdom? Or often when I go to bed, I lie down and I say, Jesus, what do you want to tell me right now? And then one thing that I kept hearing the past years, almost every time I lay down in bed and I say, Jesus, what do you want to tell me before I go to sleep, is there's a new world coming. There's a whole new world coming. And always the same thing. There's a whole new world coming. And there's hope. And everything's going to change. I mean, he always gives me hope. He gives me encouragement. He gives me vision. He lifts me up. He reassures me. He strengthens me, you know?
Well, I find that any of us who believe that that's where the world is going, in light of the chaos and the negativity and what you hear and what people are experiencing, people aren't crazy. You know, gas prices are going up. You know, there's all this corruption that's coming out. Like, they're not nuts. And so when you say that to a lot of people, how it's just like so beautiful what's coming, they think you're crazy.
Yeah.
It's going to be a world of abundance. We're going to be able to do, like, you know, service to people, because we're not going to be bogged down with having to go to work and slave. And I see the glimmer sometimes when I say that to people. Like, they're like, I want to believe that.
Yeah.
Just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. That's true. And that is, but there's always visionaries and pioneers who look beyond the mountain. Or, like I have a spiritual mentor. He has a prophetic ministry in the Netherlands. And he once said, David, the new day always starts when it's still dark.
That's
At
beautiful.
12 a.m., the new day starts. But it's still dark. Everybody's asleep. But the visionaries, they wake up early and they look outside and everything's dark. But in the distance, they see the faint glow of the new day, and so they are like the roosters who start shouting everybody awake. But everybody says, it's dark out. No, the new day is coming,
That's a beautiful analogy. Wow.
We're all roosters, Elisa.
We are.
Wake up!
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you guys are roosters. Yeah.
I just want to change the subject a minute because I think you and I have got, quite similar people. You're very interested in nature, and I've always been in, nature. I grew up, animal books, bird books, and all that, drawing and things. And even now, when I sort of go out for a run, or I go cycling quite a lot, and I'm always out in nature to just get myself away from this. And it's good to be in nature and just be still and listen and stuff. But I just wanted to ask you, because you mentioned about riding your bike a couple of times, are you a big cyclist? Because Belgium is a massive cycling nation, isn't it?
Yeah, that's one of the things I enjoyed most in Belgium. Just hop on my bicycle and then ride for hours.
Yeah.
And I rode alongside a canal straight to the ocean, well, to the North Sea. And, I just enjoyed that so much. And looking at the fields of all the farms and, at the flowers and the trees and the birds and hearing the birds in the trees. And that's one of the things that really changed the moment I turned back to Jesus after being, far away from God. I mean, in my mind, he was never far away, but I turned away in my heart. But after I turned back to Jesus, all of a sudden, I started noticing how beautiful nature was. And before that, I didn't really pay attention. But it's as if getting in touch with the Creator suddenly opens you to see how beautiful his creation is.
Yeah.
And that has always been a major element in my life to just, at some point, God said, David, you have to start riding horses. So my wife got a horse for me in the Netherlands. And I started riding the horse on the Veluwe, in the forests, the sand dunes. And my God, that was so wonderful. Just be away from all the hustle and bustle from the world, be away from all the noise and the chaos, and just spend hours in nature. I mean, that is what always kept me sane. That's also why God gave us a property in Colorado in the mountains, away from everybody. And then the pandemic hit, and I made all these evidence reports and all these documentaries that reached so many people worldwide. I could never have done it while living in a big city. It was being in nature that gave me the calmness to be able to do that.
Yeah. That's what I was doing during lockdown. I mean, when I wasn't at the computer researching everything, for between 2 and 6 hours every day, I was out on my bike on my own. It was beautiful. There was not a plane or chemtrail in the sky. And people still can't equate that now. The fact that, we used to have summers like they were in the 80s, all of a sudden when they just shut the world down for a little bit. And now it's fog and mist and chemtrails, this, and the sky going grey from a beautiful blue morning.
Yeah. I look forward to that ending. I really do. It's that's one of the things that's I mean, it will be. It's it's a sign. It's really a sign of how evil is trying to cover the whole earth with its blanket of deception.
Yeah. Do you? Can I just ask you? Elisa was probably going to ask this as well. Do you think, because many of us have gone down this rabbit hole, that the the white hats are now in control of these chemtrails. There's nothing nefarious coming out of them anymore, but you have to keep doing it to sort of wake the people up to what's going on and the agenda they had for us.
That is possible. I'm not sure. I haven't really looked into that currently. I did make a report on chemtrails to just prove that it's real. I made a video about it, but I have a friend here in California who says, I mean, he's a health practitioner, and he says that they are measuring extreme levels of heavy metals that are coming out of the rain and also from the chemtrails. So this is one thing I've been wondering about. Like there have been these massive tornadoes, these hurricanes that have hit America after Trump really took some powerful action against the cabal. And, I don't know what's going on there, but I don't believe that they are in control of everything already. I don't believe that they have everything, but because there's still too much evil going on. I believe that there is a battle. I mean, when God told me you're in the army now, well, that is to fight. And there is an aspect of, yes, you're watching a movie, but there's also an aspect of fight. So Trump accused at both things. He called people to fight and fight hard, and he called people to trust that they have a plan. So basically they said, we are here, we are fighting, so be confident and trust us, because Patriots are in control, but they're not in control of everything. They're in control of the big things, but they needed us. Q was launched to activate millions of people worldwide to join the battle. And so I believe that there's still a war going on. I believe that there will be a war until the year 2033. And why do I believe that? Because I was in a conference a couple of years ago, a prophetic conference, and a man that I know has a very accurate prophetic ministry. He has prayed several times for me and my family, and all the words were spot on, accurate. I mean, God really spoke through this guy. And he was a guest speaker at the conference, and he shared a vision that he had. And in the vision, he saw an up and down movement from 2020 to 2033. And it started in 2020 when the movement went down. And then it went up again in 2025. And then in 26 it went down again. Or, it spoke about that there would be darkness and light. There will be good things happening and bad things happening during the decade of 2020 to 2030, with an overlap to 2020 to 2033. And then he saw in that vision that after 2033, that the line went upward perpetually.
Wow.
And it had this eternity sign with it. Like in all of eternity, it will now go upwards. And he saw the words revival, awakening, reformation. And this guy is not into conspiracy theories like we are. So he is not aware of everything that's going on in the world. He just saw that. And that actually made this vision more reliable to me, because it wasn't from his own subconsciousness. And so the message was, from 2033, things are going to go up forever. And right after I had seen that, I had a Zoom call with my spiritual mentor in the Netherlands, this old prophet. And he said, David, I think that in 10 years from now, we are going to see a lot of very positive changes in the world. And he said that in 2023.
Wow.
So, and I realized, so he's saying in 2033, there's going to be major breakthrough of good. And that makes sense, because the plan of Satan was to submit the whole world to his complete tyrannical rule by 2030.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it makes sense that then, then that chart showed one last move down that started in 2030. Something that went down. And I don't know, is it going to be another pandemic, or is it going to be other crisis, but there will be a final desperate attempt of darkness to regain ground and to I can't say to win after all, because it's no longer possible, but a final desperate attempt.
Yeah.
And then after that, it's going to be up forever. And, I would never have talked this kind of language several years ago. But now I understand that it is what millions of people are seeing and sensing and hearing worldwide. And as you say, Stu, God speaks to all of us. And those who listen, those who pay attention, those who have a sensitive heart, they pick this up all around the world. There are so many people from so many different streams in society and in spirituality and philosophy and beliefs, but they're all saying a new earth is coming. A new creation is coming. Everything's going to change. And I don't believe it's going to be flip. I believe that it's going to happen by the removal of the suffocating force of darkness, and then the good people rising up and starting to do good in the world. Starting to transform education, to reform healthcare, to make agricultural healthy again, and so on. And that is the message of this book. It's to really activate the billions of people worldwide, billions of Christians. Is it can focus? Yeah. To activate them to become the world changers that we are called to be. People, it's raising up the sons of God to take back, because God once spoke to me and he said, David, why are the wicked reigning in the world? I said, I don't know. Because the righteous aren't.
Yeah, no. Exactly.
And I think also when we talk about, go ahead.
Then he said, but I never appointed the wicked. I appointed the righteous. And so I realized that the only reason that the wicked are reigning in the world is because they have convinced the righteous not to. And the message of this book is to show the righteous, you are the ones who have the blessing of God, you have the mandate of God, you have the anointing of God, you have the presence of God. I mean, the good people are the ones who have God's blessing to do good in the world. The bad people don't have his blessing. So if the good people start realizing that, we are the ones who have the royal mantle on our shoulder. God gave the world to the righteous, not to the wicked.
This is why Trump said in 2017, we are giving power back to you, the people.
Exactly. But
we, the people, haven't come on board yet, have they? They're still living in fear, not love. They're still convinced by the mainstream media. And we have, what you were just saying there, let's hope the White Hats have accelerated their plans so, we don't have to wait years and years and years for this. And I do believe when that goes up, we will be living in a beautifully new world there. The rebuilding will come, or the release of these patents and hidden cures and everything we need. But in the meantime, people need to be mindful that this one last hurrah they might have. We've heard people, Cliff High and many others, talking about an event on the magnitude of like 13, 14 times as bad as 9/11. So scare necessary event we're hearing the drops and the precipice moment. But, everyone's got to be wise about this and keep your wits about you. But trust in God. We don't. I'll have a look at that comment in a minute. None of us kneel to Trump. Trump is a hero of ours. We know what we're doing, but we kneel to God, right? Yeah,
exactly. Exactly. And that is what I really like about Trump. He often posts these memes, especially on Papi Trumpo, his personal accounts, of him kneeling before Christ and him kneeling in prayer. And, this video where he says, somebody said, you're more famous than Jesus Christ. And he said, no, I'm not. He's the boss. He's the boss. I'm not taking any chances. And then as he says that, and then all the flags, as he gives honor to Jesus, and says he's the boss. I mean, he's greater. As he says that, all the flags behind him start to wave in the wind all of a sudden, very excitedly. I'm like, it's very interesting. But I like Trump is extremely confident. He needs to be. He is probably the most confident man in the whole world. He has this arrogance, this attitude, this strength, which he needs to have to do this. But at the same time, he totally bows before God. And he has said so many times, we worship God, not government.
Yeah.
It's very funny because I was just doing like a little math, and it's kind of interesting because part of, I think, what is going to take that amount of time, let's say if the year or the approximate year is 2033, is because the more people that are awakened and become awake, their vibration is raising, and that's helping to raise the planet and then raise other people, and then those people join and raise other people. So I think just from like, and I'm not an expert on this, but it would just seem logical that we need to get to that point, because until that time, the darkness has more power because it controls through fear and ignorance and lack. But it's interesting because if you think about that, Trump started, right, 2016 is kind of like when he was elected. I know he didn't take office, until January of the next year, but to 2033, that's like 17 years. And it makes sense that it would take that much time because you have this elevation that has to happen. But you also have new generations coming in that are coming in at a higher vibration that are helping, helping that whole spiritual war even more. I wanted to say something about the chemtrails. I am far from a scientific person. I've done no studies. And I just use common sense when I would see chemtrails and say, okay, that can't be good. But I can tell you in New York and on Long Island specifically, in the last, let's say, year to 2 years, I have noticed an incredible difference in the grass. It's greener, it's lusher. It looks like the grass we had when I was a little girl in the 70s. And the weeds, like the dandelions and some of the are back, like they weren't there. And I also see the sky when it's clear. It is absolutely incredible and beautiful. And I will say too, and go out on a limb here, that among my friends, my circle, I don't really see people that sick anymore. So I'm thinking that there's probably not full control from the perspective that they're still fighting evil and trying to get but I have to believe that there's a lot more going on with these chemtrails that is leaning towards good than bad because of just the practicality of what I'm seeing. And I would hope that, maybe it's not 100%, but as Stu always says, you can't teach people about chemtrails if you don't have them. To understand what was really going on and why people did get so sick from all this heavy metal, among other ways they're getting it. But they just didn't know. And now people are talking about it much more like, oh yeah, the chemtrails. Like, you need awareness before you can have understanding and change.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I like somebody says a dandelion is not a weed, it's a flower.
It's a
weed. And that is with so many things. Everything that's good for us, they've said it's bad. And everything that's bad for us, they've said it's good.
That's right. My grandfather, who came from from Sicily, they used to go out on the road sometimes. Now, he was a little bit of a tribal kind of guy. But the point is, they used to go out on the road, and he would have a sack and he would take all the wild dandelions. And my father thought he was crazy, of course, growing up, in the 1940s. He's like, yeah, okay. And he's like, shh, don't tell anyone, because if they know they're here, they're going to take them. But these are things that we know now, dandelion root and all these things. Like, I'm sure people in the chat all utilize a lot of this stuff. So why are they all of a sudden coming back, Yeah.
Weather modification is very local. So it is very well possible that, that something else is going on in different areas.
Yeah.
So, I mean, but I'm not really too much into that anymore because I had to write this book. I had to focus on that. So that's my assignment now. But my main attitude is now, even the evil that is still going on, it's on its last legs. And I do believe that there will happen some things. There may happen some things in Europe that are necessary to wake up the people. Like, I believe Trump has taken authority over Europe and over the British Commonwealth. But as you guys say, they need to allow the tyranny, the corruption, the crime, the evil to continue and even to get worse.
Yeah.
Because it's the only way to wake up the people. As Q said, only when people are at the precipice do they have the willingness to change. They have to stare the abyss in the face. They have to stand there. That's the only thing that will change, that will cause willingness to change. So I believe that, I even suspect that they are appointing some people in government. In the Netherlands, for example, there's this new prime minister, and he is setting up, I mean, he's creating so many new taxes that people are just freaking out. I mean, they're now starting to tax the air that you breathe, So many things that don't make sense are happening, and I believe that is necessary to wake up the people.
Yeah,
I believe that's necessary. And I believe that as the absurdity increases, people can either panic or they can be encouraged and think, finally, my neighbors are going to start paying attention because it's getting so bad. And so for a couple of years, I believe that people in Europe will have to hang in there.
Yeah.
Have to keep their eyes focused on the horizon.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, we are a few years behind what's going on in America, and here in the UK, we are in the Biden years. This is why we've got Keir Starmer here. Now, whether the dark side controls Keir Starmer or the white hats are in there putting him to do a job to wake the people up, he's doing the worst job of anyone. He won't leave. He's attacking everyone. And now someone said to me today, oh, what do you think about him banning the internet, for 16-year-olds? I said, brilliant. What a better way to get all the under 16-year-olds riled up and on board and doing something.
Yeah,
exactly.
And Stu and I were just looking at, I think it was yesterday or the day before, Stu, there's the video that shows this whole Ebola thing. And the people are, I guess it was in Africa.
It was in the Congo.
And they just kicked this doctor out. Like, shut up. Come on, we're done. Because it's showing the people are not being fooled anymore by these scare tactics.
Yeah.
And that's huge.
Yeah. I believe that we are in a time that many, many people throughout history have longed for.
Yes.
But you have to know it. You have to know what's going on. If you only look at the surface, then it's a dark time. When you look behind, deeper, then it's a very exciting time. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but yeah.
I just want to ask you then, talking about the sort of the awakening, quickening and stuff, and what we've seen with this Israel for last is that many people have been saying for years and years, Trump is Israel's bitch and he does what Netanyahu says, and we're all going, no, he doesn't trust the plan, watch what happens and stuff. But he's making a turn. And the beauty of this plan, I believe, is the fact that because Trump has always stood with Israel and, had relationships with Israel potentially publicly in this thing going on with Iran, is the fact that you've seen Trump turn on Israel now, start saying, Bibi, you be in jail and this sort of thing. But the whole point of that is throughout the whole course of this operation, while Trump is getting everyone's eyes and everyone else, Tucker and Candace and stuff, focused on Israel, not one person could have ever called him anti-Semitic for how he's dismantling them.
And that is, again, a sign of such brilliance, such intellect. I believe that he is such a master a strategist. I mean, he plays the role of being Netanyahu's best friend while he's constantly kicking the chair of Netanyahu from under him. But I also believe that Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson are part of the White Hats.
Yeah.
I think that because they are exposing the very center of the deep state, which is Israel. And I mean, I think that it's brilliant. So yeah.
Yeah.
But
It had to be that way because
had to be that way. Yeah.
there's so many people that were so brainwashed and still are, especially in the Jewish community, average people who just were filled with so much fear, and that Israel is a safe place for them. And you can't just come out and say, this is evil.
Yeah.
They would have had breakdowns and gone crazy. But most of the people I know, my friends at least that are Jewish, are very pro-Trump, and they're very, but they were also aligned with Israel. So
Yep.
I've watched the slow, like, acceptance of, oh, Bibi's a bad guy. Like it's slow, but they've done it in such like an accepting way where it hasn't riled up their paranoia, their fear, and their turning against Trump. So it was, whether it was Trump or, obviously we know he works with the military, but those minds are so great, the way they strategize and figure these things out and understand human nature. It's wonderful to watch it play out.
It is. And when people say Trump is a Zionist and he's in the pocket of the Zionists, then I'm like, you clearly have no brain, because every single thing Trump has been doing is abolish the agendas of the Zionists. They were behind the mass censorship. Trump destroyed it. They are the ones who own the news media. Trump destroys it. They were behind the pandemic. Trump ended it and destroyed the Great Reset. They are the ones who want the one world government in Israel. Trump destroys it. I mean, everything Trump does is destroy every little thing that, I mean, it's the Jews who set up the United Nations. Trump literally pulled the plug from the UN and said, I'm going to create something better, the Board of Peace. It's like everything he does is against the plans of the Zionists.
Yeah.
So how can anyone in his right mind say, Trump is their pawn? It's a sign of extreme, shallow, extremely superficial thinking.
Well, it's talking points. That's all it is. They're not really doing their research. They're not really looking at the facts. They're not putting on their critical thinking. They're using emotional anger and resentment, and they're just listening to talking points, because when you go to have a conversation, it doesn't go anywhere because they don't have facts.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's easy to be negative. It's easy to be dark. It takes more character to rise above that and see the good that is happening. It's people who are lazy are negative. People who build character, they rise above that and they see more. But hey, I'll have to get going. I really, really enjoyed this conversation. I think you guys are absolutely awesome. I'm very encouraged to hear and see you guys. And
you're welcome back anytime, David, as things escalate, for sure. And just don't forget, everyone, the Q Drop said the truth will put 99% of the people in the hospital. That means in every walk of life, every institution you've been lied to, whether that's in the medical industry or your teachers or the bankers or anything like this, right? People have been lying to you, the media, right? So everyone engaged in those institutions needs to take a step back and do your own research. And I just want to say one thing as well. I always put a little outro on the end, and off your Stop Control website, everyone go there, stopwellcontrol.com. There's so many free films on there that are absolutely brilliant and so much information. But I clipped one of the bits off your website a long time ago, and I've played it so many times for people. It's absolutely beautiful. So I'm just got that on the end as a little outro if you've got a couple of minutes.
I just want to double, make people realize they can get your book, your latest book, and your other books through the website, correct?
Yeah, but not on Stop War Control. I actually have to put it on there as well. Okay. I've built a new website for the book. It's called thereturnToChrist.com. Okay. So it talks about the return of Christ, but the website is called thereturnToChrist.com, because I'm calling people to step away from the false, to return to Christ, who has the truth and who empowers us to become world changers, to become those who restore God's creation. And so, so that is thereturnToChrist.com.
Absolutely beautiful. David, thank you for joining us. Thank you for everyone in the chat. Absolutely great group of people and just watch this 2-minute little intro, because this is a beautiful little thing, and potentially people need to buckle up and get ready, because things are escalating, aren't they? Where we go,
Well,
when we go.
on a personal note, David, we're so happy to have you here as an American.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much.
Country.
It's been a real pleasure. And I'd love to have another chat in the future and just give hope to the people.
You never know, because this Englishman might be an American in the not too distant future.
Yeah.
Let's see what happens. Yeah. Okay, guys, take care. We'll see you later.
Bye-bye.